It's been a while since you've seen a video on the Desperado rebuild. This is the boat that I bought in August. It got vandalized the same night I bought it, that we towed here, and then had plans to fix the stuff that was vandalized. And then we kind of just jumped into rebuilding the entire boat. I didn't really give you guys an explanation. Just like any project or any boat, we kind of got into it to go fix the things that were vandalized, like the windows, the electronics, and we kind of realized that this boat needs everything. If you guys ever worked on a project like this, you realize once you get in there, you may as well just keep going. Plus there was some other things that the boat needed, like the floor to be fixed, the motor tuned up and things like that. So we basically have taken on a full-on restoration project. This is the time to build the boat that's gonna last me the rest of my life. Also, we have an announcement at the end of the video I think you guys are gonna be excited about. We have been working for hours getting this thing cleaned, and it actually looks really, really, really good. The degreaser is working perfectly. It is a messy job, not a fun one, but now that it's done, probably do it again with a power washer. We're just trying to get every surface as degreased as possible, and it does look really good, but there's definitely some areas that still have some stuff, but we need to degrease it once so we can tell where we need to degrease it. I don't know if it looks much different on camera, but it definitely is different. It's very, very, very different. Way, 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 way better. That's pretty good. So we got like one more step before we are going to start hacking away at this thing, cutting the stringers out, and then start making new stuff. I'm gonna clean this one more time with a power washer and some solvent, like some purple power kind of stuff. I just really want everything to be clean before we start grinding, because when you start grinding fiberglass, you can push more grease and oil deeper in, and then you're not gonna get that really good bond. You know, this is not usually how I do stuff. Usually I kind of wing it a little more, and I'm just like, whatever, get it done. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. We're already this deep in. There's no point in skipping one little step that could affect something seriously structural. So I hate cleaning, but we're gonna do it anyway. The boat is power washed and degreased, and it looks worse than ever, and as do I. But I think that that's kind of a necessary evil. You gotta go backwards before you go forwards once again. I'm gonna try to just get the hose and spray all the junk, because it's just a lot of little pieces of stuff. Like, see all this crap, it's like fiberglass, but mostly it's this balsa pulp. It's all knocked free now. It's gonna be a long process of kind of spraying it all down in the centers and then sucking it out with a vacuum. I keep trying to drain this with a pump, but the pump keeps getting clogged up. It's suction to the bottom, and it's plugged up with all kinds of crap. And this screen is also completely plugged up from all the same stuff. This little wood pulp is killer. So yeah, next step is gonna be trying to get all this junk out of here. So I'm basically gonna try to take this chainsaw, if the chainsaw starts, and I'm gonna cut basically here all the way up that glass line, as you can see. We're gonna cut all these old fasteners out and everything, and that's just gonna leave us a tab, but this tab is already bonded to the hull really well. We don't wanna have to prep all the surface within this thing, so we're just gonna have to scrape the wood out from here, hopefully have tabs that will be able to hold our new Divinicel. We can run that up to the bottom of the deck, cut them off, and be good to go. Definitely sketchy, but we're gonna try it. Cutting these down, and what you just saw me doing right there, I'm trying to dig the balsa out of here. So the balsa was the wood they used as a core to make these beams. Now they use a material called Divinicel. It's synthetic, it doesn't rot. That's what we're gonna replace it with. It will really depend on if I can get the balsa out of there and the surface inside of this prepped. The fiberglass on the other side is gonna need to be prepped too. That's gonna be quite a bit of work as well. Yep, that's pretty much what we're doing. It ain't pretty, but I think it's gonna work. Too late now, we've done it, so. So let me tell you why the step that I'm doing right now really concerns me. You see here, this is where the fuel tank was. There was these stringers. Well, we're cutting these out because we need to replace the stringers, because we need to build them back up. And a lot of them were rotten inside and whatever. But the reason it concerns me is because this is the structure to this hull of this boat. When you cut this stuff out, feel how echoey that is, and see how it vibrates? On this side, not near as shaky. And one of the risks is that the hull will misshape when we cut all the structure out, if it's not blocked properly. And then when we put new structure in and then concrete the structure in place with fiberglass, that the hull will be the wrong shape. And it does happen. It happens a lot, actually, especially when people gut boats like this and then sit them on a trailer or sit them in on blocks for a really long time. You let them sit for years and years and years. The hull will deform and tweak. And then when you put stringers back into that hull is never quite right. So this is a really risky part. We've decided to go this way because I think it's going to be better for everything in the long run. We've blocked it as carefully as we can, but it really does make me nervous because if you tweak the hull, A, you're not going to know until you put the boat in the water and it doesn't perform correctly. And B, if you do, I mean, it will be an absolute mess to fix that. You have to basically cut everything out and hang the boat from slings so it refines its shape. I've seen guys have to do it before on smaller boats. It really makes me nervous cutting all the structure out, but hopefully here pretty soon we start putting it back together. That will definitely make me feel a little bit better. Riley's over here. Finally, he's working.
Chainsaw works pretty good.
So these are the ones I cut out yesterday with the gas saw. This is what's inside of these stringers. This is what we're getting out of there. This is balsa wood core. So in the old days, they used to use balsa wood. It was easy, cheap, light. They could build things and then cover it in fiberglass, and the balsa was just the core, right? But now, a lot of the balsa's rotten. This is actually weirdly okay. But a lot of the balsa's rotten in a lot of these spots, and we want these tabs so that we can run the new Divinicel stringers all the way up to the bottom of the deck and cut them off. So instead of having scab, we'll have one piece in, run it all the way up, cut it flush with the bottom of the ceiling or the deck or the floor, whatever you want to call it. And it should make this thing like way more structurally sound and rigid than it even ever was. Tedious process. We've tried a bunch of different methods, but the best one we've found is to use a chainsaw. Electric chainsaw is a little more civilized. You just go down in there and dig all this out. We are leaving the bulkheads in the boat. These pieces that go side to side are called strongbacks or bulkheads. We are leaving that, so that should retain some rigidity. We are leaving the engine bedding, which really should help. And you know, the main part of this, the tabs in the bottom, which the strongest point of this whole stringer is here, we are leaving that. We're leaving the corners pretty thick. Problem is, all that space in between keeps the boat from squeezing together or falling apart, basically. And all together, they kind of help keep the boat stable or keep it from twisting, basically. Because you don't want the stern to be like this and the bow to be like that, because the thing will just do corkscrews. We'll never ride right. So risky part, it's got to be done. What do they say on Discovery Channel? No guts, no glory. From Jack Hoffman from Gold Rush. No guts, no glory. No cutting, no new boat. To say the least, this is a little more than I thought I was getting myself into. I'm not gonna lie, Riley. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm happy. I'm super pumped that we are doing it. Like I've dreamed of doing this my whole life, and being able to build the boat that I want. But like when you're actually doing it, dude, there's a lot to it.
When you said we need to do the floor, I knew we were about to do this.
I did. I thought we were gonna fix the floor. Riley knows better, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna take a year."
It's never just the floor. And anyone that does just the floor, they put a floor in and hid the rotten stringers.
And once we get through a lot of this hacking and grinding and all this really crappy part, hopefully once we start laying foam, laying glass, we're gonna start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not gonna lie, it's been like, this boat is awesome, and I'm pumped to do the project. It's been a little hard for me to get, I mean, I'm excited about it, but like, man, I never even got to run the thing. So I know what it is, but it still feels like I could be building it for somebody else. It's like I didn't get attached to it because I'd never had it. I just slid a check across the counter and got the title, and then it got destroyed, and then we just tore it apart. So like the Southern Girl, if we were to redo that, I'd be like, dude, I know all the problems that it has, and I know what to fix. I know that boat inside and out. This boat, I'm like, man, I didn't even know it before. Like, I hope it's better than it was. I mean, it's gonna be better than it was. So I'm really excited to see us start putting it back together. That's really gonna light a fire under me to really buckle down. Yeah, I should have definitely cut these fuel tanks out before I cleaned the whole boat, because I thought they were cleaner. I don't know why, I just wasn't thinking. And they're completely filled with nasty sludge that I don't want to get everywhere else, because you guys just saw me deep clean this entire thing multiple times. So trying to contain the petroleum based mess to these two spots, cut out everything that doesn't need cleaned, and then go in there and hopefully carefully scrape and clean these where these fuel tanks were. Well, today's a new day down here at the old Desperado, as Riley's been calling it.
Desperado.
And it's cold and raining and actually snowing a little bit. 38, 40 degrees right now.
Real feels like 22.
And it's blowing a gale. So this is not a fun day to work on this. We have to get this boat ready so that we can shrink wrap the entire thing so we can start glass work. So there goes our makeshift tent. Roof turns out not so waterproof, but better than nothing. Man, it is chilly. Wind is biting.
We might want to try to figure out something for a tarp for the backside and a better clamp.
We'll try wrapping it around the corner. Yeah. Riley ain't no crabber. Got our homeless encampment set up.
That kind of does help, as long as you stay right in this corner.
Yeah, where it's already done. It is chilly, bro. My hands, not usually cold, but they are today. That was a crappy, wet, cold day. But we got a lot done, actually. We pretty much got all the stringers that we need gutted because it's wet. All the fiberglass and sawdust is turning into concrete mush. But it's starting to actually look like not a complete pile of junk. So our next task is to invent something to get down in here and sand both sides of the inside. We roughed it up pretty good with a chainsaw, but there's still a couple spots we want to hit with something. Get to brainstorming, get in the shop, and let you know what I come up with. All right, I'm thinking if we weld the tips together with the sawzall blade in between, and we can make a thing that will almost clamp a piece of sandpaper and fit on the sawzall.
I think we should this boat.
You say that ought to do it?
That ought to do it. I think it'll work though.
That's all you need. You
It has to be pretty.
Nope, just has to work.
I've never welded anything that's faster than aluminum stick. You literally, and the problem is the arc length, in my experience, is like half of steel and half is tolerant of you getting away from it. And so you have to like hold the stick super steady because the stick is so light. Just with your hand, it's like by the end of the stick, it's doing that.
I've never.
In my experience, so you gotta just like push it fast as you can. I'm actually surprised that went through. All right, we got it. See if it works. That's pretty mint, dude. That works pretty good. Look at that.
It does.
That works pretty good.
Hopefully the pad just holds up. If it does, this is great.
Well, this is a hard pad, so the sanding pads I think would definitely get tore up. This should at least last a little bit longer. Problem is, since it's damp, it's getting stuck in there. But
yeah,
that's not bad because the bottom's pretty much done. I mean, if we need to sand the very bottom, we can come up with something else. But
they also have those Fed little sanders with long belts that you get in there. The hard part about
we sanded it with chainsaws for the most. I mean, I genuinely think it's fine.
That's like
Fiberglass.
25 grit.
It's like double lot zero.
Like vibrating the whole boat when you hit it right. It kind of feels good in your back. It's like vibrating your back.
That's what she said. Now that we know that this invention works, we are gonna suit up and do some grinding. So this is kind of probably like the worst part about this job is all the fiberglass grinding. And it's probably gonna take a couple years off my life, but I think that it's actually gonna work out better because it costs a lot of money to live right now these days, and I can't see it going down any. I'm hoping that like the graph of like how long I live and the cost of living kind of intersect right in that sweet spot, and I'll have an awesome boat for the rest of my life. So I gotta vacuum all the water out of here. Riley's getting all the tools. We're really thankful to have him helping me because he's done all this stuff before. I've done some patching of glass here and there, but he's actually like, he rebuilt a whole boat, jet boat. He used to work in this stuff, so he knows it real well. We're just gonna suit up in Tyvek suits, buckle down, and get it done. Hook up the vacuums to mitigate the dust. The weather's also not helping us. It's been really windy, nasty, wet, rainy, and actually some sleet, so we're fighting the clock at this point. We just got the order of glass in today. Got to get ahead of it here. Also, pro tip, if you're gonna grind glass anywhere near your truck, especially if it's black, move it far away. We do dust collection, we have vacuums, we have respirators, we do all the nine, but grinding glass is that sometimes stuff gets caught by the wind or something and your truck will be white. Ask me how I know, because I did it a couple times. All right, we're gonna get in there. We have the homemade tool, not plugged in. See how long this lasts. We'll see how long we last. Well, this feels weird, man. I feel like I'm gonna go in and do some kind of like vandalize a boat or something and leave no trace. Well, it finally happened. What you guys probably thought was gonna happen from the beginning. That little tab broke, so I'm gonna have to go find another old sawzall blade. It shouldn't be hard. Honestly, this thing's working mint for what it is. Well, it's the day after Thanksgiving. We are back on the wagon, working on the Desperado here. I'm thankful for hard pads and grinders and 1708 fiberglass and all those kinds of things. Cummins diesels, twin disc transmissions, Garmin, and all the other sponsors that we have for this video. And Riley for helping me the day after Thanksgiving. What's up? Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you.
Was the boat froze?
Yeah, no. It was full of water again.
Is there sheet ice in there?
No. I think we just drill a hole in the bottom at this point.
I mean, we talked about doing that. I am curious to see if the hull is actually ball supported or not.
Well, we'll figure it out once we pull it through holes now, but yeah, it's kind of annoying working on a dead rise. It's really my first time really working on one where everything's collects in the middle and there's no way for anything to get out.
Yeah.
It's amazing, like, we got rain, but it wasn't that much, but
dude, it's a funnel. This thing is somehow is a funnel. We get a teeny tiny bit of rain and that whole engine well is filled.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of looking at it, think like, I know through these strong backs there's drains. I mean, if it has like a funnel, you should at least allow all the water to centralize in a certain place, not get trapped in all these compartments. And it kind of was like that before, but like where the fuel tanks were, obviously there's no drain there. And this, that was insulated in fish box, there's no drains there. So I'm thinking about just popping a hole right here, right there, and right there. Because ideally, I guess when you're running the boat, you want the water, I mean, not really ideally, but if all the water went to the engine bay and they just had your main pump right there.
No, we don't want that. We want the engine box to be sealed off from everything else.
Oh.
For spillage.
Well, that's where everything drains to from factory.
Well, actually it drains to back there, right on the other side. Underneath here, there's a channel that runs bow to stern, just like the Southern Girl. And the Southern Girl is a piece of pipe, but it runs from the lowest part of the bow, underneath all this, to the well, or underneath the shaft.
Right. And see if this thing's like full of water.
A lot of dead rises, the lowest part is in the bow, which makes it, which is kind of weird. But
when I looked at the boat with you before you even bought it. Actually, that's crazy.
Full of disappointment.
Net 10.
Doesn't have anything to do with what it actually weighs. I think it has to do with cargo displacement.
I'm not sure if that's moist from like water was there and it ran back. Or
what, in that piece of wood?
Well, like down inside there. Or if that's moist just from oil. That'll never dry.
That's just perma-dirt. That's like scudge.
I mean,
bilge scudge. I'm very familiar.
Because as we put the boat together, we want, since we have the opportunity to design it however we want.
Yeah, this thing's got this weird well. I guess it goes all the way down into the keel that's like pretty deep, all things considered. But that same well runs bow to stern. There's like a false bottom in the engine box and the fish box. It's sort of the least of our worries right now. We've been at it for a little while, and yeah, it looks like we got into a little bit of booger sugar, but I promise it's not near as exciting. This is probably the worst part of the build, is what we're doing right now. The light at the end of the tunnel is just knowing we probably don't have to do a whole lot more than this. And if you do the worst part early, then everything else is easy, right? Looks like it snowed in Pasadena. We were blowing through hard pads and sanding pads and vacuums and cleaners and filters and you name it. We are done for the day. We did about 6 straight hours of grinding and we got a lot done. What do you think? We got another day or so and grinding maybe?
We got most of the major stuff done, just fine tuning really.
I know it doesn't look like anything, but all this area is all sanded. The inside, the sides, the tabs. Tell you what, the White Christmas in here looks like one of Pablo's boats. Will you keep it down?
No.
Need a big hammer for this one. Oh, it actually worked. Holy crap.
It's like that one guy on TikTok that does all those hydraulic
cylinders. Shane. You know, Shane LaBeal.
Yeah.
He's a buddy of mine. He's cool.
Yeah. He'll like have a huge monkey wrench, whatever, and a pole like 20 feet long, he's jumping off of it. I'm like, man, I would have given up at, I don't know, forever ago.
Not old Shane. It'd be nice to have one reliable crab boat, you know? So we're finding more and more things as we get into this boat. So these were the old scupper holes, and they had a plate over top of them that was 5200, with just like a chunk of wood in here. Finding out that on the outside they're not even glassed in, it's just filler and 5200. That is not good. Worst part about that is that that was underneath the ceiling. So if that were to get busted loose, you wouldn't have even known it. She'd have sunk. Another hole to patch, I guess.
I tried throwing all this stuff away when you weren't here.
Tell me this is a freaking mint hammer. Look at this.
No, look,
Dude, it is.
The button is stuck. Like
it doesn't matter. It's permanently attached to the filter. It's a permanent filter wrench.
Okay, do you have a spot for it? Do you have a home for it?
I'll find one.
I'm proud.
Killing me, Smalls. I'm gonna be chipping away at this thing. You're gonna come back, it's gonna be this giant fiberglass sculpture. So this is the stuff that we've been cutting out of the boat. This is a good example of the balsa coring. So there's fiberglass on either side, and then down the center is balsa wood. They use styrofoam now. We're basically gonna build the same structure for the stringers inside the boat, but instead of balsa wood, we're gonna use styrofoam. You can see in here, moisture can get down in there and it'll rot the wood away, and then you'll just have a bunch of mulch in between this. And the structure really doesn't come from the wood, it comes from the glass, but you don't want rot in there. It's not ideal. Not only is styrofoam better for the environment, it's also never gonna go away, right? That's why it's so good for the environment. So what we got to do now, since we have the inside of the boat sanded, is basically tent the boat. So to do that, we're gonna get shrink wrap, like big plastic wrap that they use. We have some on the Southern Girl over there, and it's pretty common for winter storage. But anyway, we're gonna basically build a tent around the entire boat. Then we can heat the inside to be able to lay glass, because we need to lay fiberglass, and fiberglass won't cure unless it's warm enough. 30 degrees outside, we need it to be 50 degrees in the tent so that the fiberglass can cure. So in order to do that, we need to build an entire tent around the boat. Essentially what we're doing is building a giant sail on top of this already unstable project. So we got these cut at 45. I'm gonna punch holes in the plastic with a chainsaw, send these down the roof, mount them here to the studs. We're gonna take a piece of aluminum angle iron and lay it upside down on top of this to make a peak so that water and snow and whatever else will run off of the roof. Just pray it holds, I guess. Well, as you can see here from the flag and the tree, this is not ideal conditions to shrink wrap a boat. So we're gonna try it anyway, because we've done all our grinding in the cold sideways rain, and now we're gonna shrink wrap the boat in the windiest day of the week. So kind of the way it's going. It's all good. Neighbors are losing their decorations. This isn't so bad. Usually I'm up there holding the camera. Riley's up there. Switch roles. They don't scratch nothing up there. You feel safe. That's weird. Need a hammer?
No, I need a hand.
No, we don't have those. I'd have a hammer. You can see we've patched up the roof to some 2x4s and things like that, because it was a little sketchy. Still is sketchy, but a little less sketchy. As you can see, blowing all over the place. We're gonna have to get this thing cinched down pretty quickly, or else it's gonna be in a creek. It's actually quite nice in here now. Not so bad. Better like it, because I'm gonna spend a lot of time in here. See how it's really loose like that? When they hit it with a heat gun, that plastic's gonna shrink up. It's gonna get tight. They'll hit every piece of it, and it'll be like banjo tight, ideally. So this is good. This is a milestone, really. We've done a lot of deconstruction. Once we get it wrapped, we can start reconstructing. So I'm excited. I really am. This is good. I was getting a little tired of sanding. Riley's got the vintage shirt on. Free range crabs and the hull numbers. Boobs. It says boobs. That shirt's pretty old.
I think I've been around this long because since I actually had to pay for it, I don't use it as a work shirt.
I'll put a hole in it.
Your boat?
Yeah, that's why you're doing it.
Try. Let the gas go, then pull it. There you go. See how it starts turning like different colors, like it's smooth? Stop that section and let it cool down. Just keep moving though. So you want to keep moving.
Up here.
In about 10 minutes, your arm will feel numb. I'd probably say this whole area is good for heat for now. Just keep going. After it cools down, then you can come back to it. So you'll just find yourself, you'll sit there until you burn a hole in it. It doesn't catch on fire. It kind of burns and it'll burn a hole, but I've never seen a flame.
All right, well, we have it. We should have got a sponsor from like Trojan or something. It's giant. It's done. We got a couple spots to touch up with the wind dies down. It's not ideal conditions, especially to a boat this big, but she's under wrap. We'll go check it out inside, see what she looks like. We will cut a door in it, but for now we got a flap. It's not so bad. It looks nice in here.
Rent-free, you live in here.
Yeah, ain't nothing's rent-free. I tell you what, the shrink wrap was a lot of work just to fix this hole in the window, but gotta do what you gotta do.
It's still a little cold. We do have a little heater in here going. It is making a difference. But now we can actually start getting the boat ready for glass. Also have Dylan helping today. He's a little camera shy. He's off work today for the holidays, but here at Baka Point Seafood, we don't ever get 8 days off, so we gotta take advantage of help we can get it. Take you guys up to the cabin. We have cleaned it up a little bit though. It's just dusty. If we're doing fiberglass, like actually laying it up, it's a little bit cleaner work, so there's no sense of constantly being covered in dust and everything. And you know, maybe we get to a point where we can use the bench to eat our lunch. We'll get to it. So I think the next step is install the stringers. We're gonna make templates. I know, if we just weren't lazy and we would go to Home Depot, we could probably just put a piece of wood in here, shim it to make the top flat. Maybe once it gets here, we're just gonna throw all this away. But at least when it gets here, it looks like we're doing something. If I've learned anything from working for people over the years, you gotta make it sure it looks like you're doing something. All right, so we went to Home Depot. We got it's kind of like material that goes in the back of a dresser. It was cheap stuff. We're gonna transfer the template onto there, and we're just gonna see what happens. I'm not a carpenter, so I really don't know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna try scribing it. Yeah, let's see how it goes. To scribe it, I just found this big disc. We're just gonna see what happens. All right, so kind of ran out at the very end. Probably what will happen is we'll cut it once, it'll drop down a little lower, then we'll just cut it again. Not too bad, got the angle back there. So these are just the templates, like I said, and they're taller than what the stringers are actually gonna be. I'll probably bring like a laser line in here, adjust it to the height or the angle, I guess, of the original floors, because we want to raise the deck up to about where the secondary floors were, I guess. But I'll bring that line in, that way we can get basically chop the tops off at the correct angle. And there's a couple little spots, and that's where the scribe, I ran out of room, but like there's an angle right there, so not too shabby. I might try scribing it again, close up that gap though. So we got this piece, the template made. There is a gap right there. The original floor was about to this height, and as you can see, there's material that's slide back in this strong back. The floor is being raised to about probably right here, so basically the material is slide into there. So we'll just have to cut a little square or triangle, my bad, and then right there and just glass it in, which, I mean, as long as you glass it, okay, or good. It's not gonna compromise the structure of the boat. We're good for all 4 back stringers, because this is for both outers. This piece we test both inners, and we're good there. So with these front stringers, I think I measured from strong back. The strong back is 127 inches, so a 4x8 sheet won't work if you put 2 and 2 together. So we took a 4x8 sheet of whatever this stuff is. So we cut it down the center, hot dog style, and then we have an extra 32 inches we've got to cut. So we put it in there, and then we can scarf that, get this template done, and if we get lucky, it might work for this side. These 2 centers and the 2 outers in the center of the boat, they look like they're pretty flat. Probably should still scarf them to make sure they're perfect, but shouldn't need much. Traditionally, you don't want a joint like this, but it's not, just not strong. In the front of the boat is where Luke runs the boat, so he's gonna eventually have a station right here. His shaker guy is gonna be right there. Dip of the tanks and the hot tank is gonna be right here. I don't know how many gallons this hot tank is. It's heavy, that's all in it. A lot of weight. There's gonna be a lot of weight in this section. I'm a little scared that like with all the weight, they kind of buckle. Especially these ones down here, because if the floor is gonna be up to here, it's gonna be like 29 inches the stringers are gonna be in height. I just don't like the idea of that much weight being pushing down. The original stringers are in this boat, which obviously we kept the tab in. It's only 1/2 inch wide. Not that strong in my opinion, so what I'm gonna do, there's gonna be the Divinycell glassed in, and then we're gonna sister in another piece of Divinycell, which will also have to have a butt joint, which will just overlap somewhere else, like on the opposite side. And boom, boat strong, hopefully. My whole goal is that Luke can park a tank on this thing. Last thing I want is Luke to grab on this thing and something happen, and hundreds of thousands of people are like, whoa, he listened to Riley on what to do on the boat. And I'm sitting there like, well, I didn't expect him to actually park a tank on it. I want this thing to be strong, so I don't mind sacrificing like 200 pounds and make it 200 pounds heavier. So this is the stuff, the Divinycell stuff. It's just closed cell foam. There's a couple pieces that broke off during transportation, just smaller pieces. So we took them and trimmed them into this shape. He's working on finalizing the shape of that one. The original scuppers for where the floor originally was is right there. They weren't even glassed in. They were just kind of like pieces of wood just smushed in there. That's the scuppers that we're using now. Eventually these holes are going to be plugged, so we just use those scrap pieces. Those are the pieces that are going to go in there, then we're going to glass them in. I'm just going to leave them in there for now because it makes them more airtight. I think that's the first piece of Divinycell we've used and put in. Only 10 more sheets to go.
All right, it's New Year's Day. We got to go get epoxy and some things like that, but
Epoxy.
Polyester resin, sorry. To start laying these stringers up because we are impatient. But we are also going to get a bunch of stuff to light the whole inside of the boat and rig it up for electricity because we're gonna be working in there a good bit. If you've ever done fiberglass before, you know that once it's on, it's game on. So we got to be hooking and booking because that stuff will start to cure. So we're going out into the wild to find some parts. Oh my God, Riley, look at all these wrenches, dude. Everyone you could ever want. It's bad when he gets a cart too. Whew, we're in trouble. All right, $320 later. We have about $700 worth of stuff from Home Depot. Now to the place. It's really gonna hurt the wallet. Get it over with. Yeah, right, this is our first of 15 trips. Riley's on a freaking shopping spree, dude. Well, turns out it is impossible to find poly resin anywhere. We have literally called every West Marine in the state. They don't have it. Because we're gonna get in there, lay some wires up and see what we can do tomorrow. Pro tip, if you're gonna go to West Marine or really anywhere like that, call them, make sure they actually have the stuff in stock. As you can see, it is maybe the windiest day of the year since we put up the tent. It's nice in here. Hanging up some lights. All right, we have light. Since it gets dark at like 3 p.m., we can actually work on this thing a full day. We got the shop vac. Now I need to make an attachment so we can get down inside of these stringers and suck the stuff out. You would think this would be able to do it, but it can't. So I'm gonna go in the shop and try to build a rig. All right, so I need to make a rig that fits on here to get down in the stringers. And I think this caulk tube's actually gonna work nicely. It fits perfectly. Cut it off, pull the caulk out. That's, I guarantee, already hardened into a block, and then heat this and squish it so we can stick it down in there. It's not too bad. Get out. That's a rig there, boy. Oh, that's good. We are now going to break a cardinal rule of boat building in a way. We're using this laser level thing, but not in a level way, not to make it level to ground. We're using this to draw a consistent laser line all the way around the boat. Traditionally, you run a line, like a mason line, bow to stern, so you can keep all your stuff on the same plane. We're gonna do that once we have the stringers in and we can cut them off the top. So when we put these new stringers in, they're gonna stick way high. We're cutting them, giving ourselves a bit of tolerance, and then be able to cut them off all right around the same length, because you don't want your deck to have waves in it. You don't want it to be all goofy. So we have this fancy box level, and we got this little laser line you can barely see because of the light, and go around and try to mark all this with Sharpie or a chalk line, just to give us some reference before we really get into here, because I just want a reference line. It's just confusing since we cut everything out. Also, you may be wondering, like, why aren't you just using the tops of the stringers and the strong backs? Well, the original deck to this boat did sit on top of the stringers and the strong backs, but the deck that we pulled out of the boat and the deck that we're gonna put back in, I wanna raise it up a little bit. One of the problems I had with the Southern girl is that I get too much weight on her. She'll take water in the scuppers, it'll run forward, and I don't want to risk that issue ever again. So we're gonna raise it up a little bit, and when we put the whole new one in, it's gonna be higher than the original one, and hopefully it's gonna prevent all those issues that I was having, taking on water from scupper holes and this and that. Yeah, it would be a lot easier to just cut everything level to the strong backs. It really would, but that's not how we do it here. We do it the hard way. Hard way or no way. The other thing is we're assuming that the original deck was true, but it's just gotta be not sloped to the front. You don't want the water in your boat running to the cabin. You want it to run out the back and out the scuppers. Also, we've never done any of this stuff before, so you're learning with us, or you're watching us learn, I guess. We're using this stuff for the stringers. It's called Divinicel foam, and I've never worked with it before, and I was skeptical of it, but it's actually way stronger than I thought. Like, it was real bendy, and it was cracking. We were trying to move it. When you actually have like a piece of it, it's very, very, very rigid, very strong. It's kind of like the modern version of balsa core. Lindsay with the snack drop off.
Just careful when you step in, there's not much stuff down onto.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, you haven't seen the boat probably since it had a deck in it and all. What do you think, honey?
I don't really know what I'm looking at, but it looks good.
Not, yeah, we don't either. Pretty nice, right? This is our new breadwinner. Hopefully our kids can use this boat if we ever have them one day. All right, we got the first Divinycell stringer in place. We made them high. Obviously it's not perfect, but we made them a little high so we can trim them down, you know, but you know, obviously this has no structure to it. But like I said, this, before we lay them in there, before we even cover them in glass, we're going to hot coat them, and they're a lot more rigid, and then we'll set them in here, and then this is what we will glass over top of. Glass will come all the way down. This is where it'll tie into the hull. This is where we've sanded away to the tab. Big step here. We only got 9 more to go. We've made some serious progress today. It feels good to actually be making progress. Kind of the exciting part, because everything you do, you're kind of getting closer to being done. When you're grinding glass and tearing stuff out, it just feels like you're making way more work for yourself. And then, of course, you have to sit back and admire it, you know, after you get a couple in. So we did a good bit of that as well, but it's looking pretty good. We have these ones as well, but the stuff's kind of fragile. I don't want to be stepping over it. So those ones are out laying there to make the front of these pieces. And then we're going to get some more of this foam and double up all these ones in the front here. And we're still trying to find some resin. Once we start glassing, we'll be really making progress. Most people get to almost this point and then let it sit in their yard for 10 years, fill with leaves, and then sell it on Facebook and say, oh, it just needs stringers and a floor. It's no big deal. There's always a reason they didn't do it. Holy cow, it's so dark out here. I forgot we've been in there for so long. I will give you guys a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to attempt to do right now. We got heater kicking in the back, warming this place up. We have an old piece of the neighbor's scaffolding that we're just going to borrow. We're going to bring it back. And trash bags I'm cutting down. I'm going to wrap this in tape, and then we're going to have a spot to start hot coating our stringers. What that means is we're going to take our foam stringer pieces, lay them on here, mix up some epoxy, coat it, flip it, coat it. And while that's curing, we're going to work on fixing some of these areas back here in the strong backs. I'm fixing to fill this boat with crabs. I'll be crabbing in bad weather just to do it. So I don't want this boat to break in half. It better not break in half after all this work. This giant hole definitely needs to be fixed. That hole I'm not as concerned about. That's because that's for the exhaust. But these things need a little bit of work, and they're going to be kind of a bear to work on when we put the stringers in it. So I'm trying to be preemptive here, which has not really worked for us in the past, but we're going to give it another shot. Fix that, hot coat this. I've never messed with poly resin. Hopefully we don't die, because it stinks, man. It's like some pretty hateful smelling stuff. All right, so these are some of the things that you don't really see. These are some of the struggles of trying to build a boat. So we have this giant roll of glass that we need to cut a section off of. You also can't get it dirty, and this shop is very dusty. So we're trying to cut a section off and bring it in the boat, because we can't really wrestle this whole thing in the boat. So we're gonna have to kind of do it in sections and hope the sections we have are big enough. You gotta get creative when you have limited resource. First thing hot coated. Oh my gosh, I tell you what. I even went and taped the vents around into the plastic wrap and cut some holes in it, but good Lord, this stuff really smells possibly flammable. Ready?
I'm ready. It's in polyester resin, not epoxy. It has a very low ratio for hardener, catalyst as you call it in polyester, typically 1 to 2%. I've been mixing it 1.25% just due to temperatures. It's like 57 in here, and I want a little bit more working time. Doing fiberglass to have everything ready. You don't want to stop what you're doing, go try mixing more. So I like to have several batches ready to go, and all I have to do is drop hardener in it. Need it, I need it. If I don't, I don't. At least it's not going to kick off and waste Luke's money.
I'm plenty good at doing all that.
All right, so we're measuring into here, going to the 16-ounce mark, which is right there. Okay. That's for the first pour.
So we're using this cup because it has measurements on it.
Yep, you want to hold it right to the lid, yep. You can pour all in one, half in the other, doesn't matter.
Yeah, because this stuff will be like a sticky mess.
Yep.
These are the cups I used to sell my crab seasoning in before we got it packaged. Used to just have a sweatshop going of boxes of seasoning and
I think they're the exact same cups, just relabeled.
I think you're right.
It just gives you time too if it's taking a while to get the.
Oh, I see. I see.
So it all doesn't start kicking.
So one of the other things is they make 2 different kinds of this. The stuff we're using has no wax, is what they call in it, which means you can lay over top of it. But the other kind of stuff has finishing wax in it, basically, which means when you lay it out, it's gonna, when it cures, it's gonna have a harder surface, right?
So no wax will be tacky, so you can lay glass on it without sanding 3 to 5 days, depends. I mean, I've heard people go to a month, but that's kind of risky. But with the wax in it, then you have to sand it. We've done so much sanding and grinding, we don't do any more sanding. That's really the main reason we're not using epoxy. The stuff in the pumps, it's a lot more simple to use, but yeah, every time you put a layer, you have to let it cure, then you have to scrub it with soap and water to get the wax layer off, and then you have to sand it as well for the next layer to adhere. So going for chemical bonds here. That also means once you start, you can't stop. So the good thing about this glass though is you pull off a section that's not big enough and it'll eventually form its own single layer. You ready to have your hands look like?
Yeah, what's next?
touching the glass with sticky hands.
Great. When they build boats, they actually have what's called a chopper gun,
I love
which
that one.
just has a string of that goes into looks like a MIG gun, welding gun, and it just shoots the chopped glass everywhere. It's way faster. Obviously, we don't have that. So this is the next best thing. And we can take this and we can grip this extra off.
Some of this stuff, trying to change the colors, I think this stuff was really hard to tell.
Does it turn a different color when it cures?
I'm not sure about this stuff. I've never used blue stuff.
Okay. First glass we're laying, the old girl. First of many. This is the part that Riley's been looking forward to the entire time. He loves fiberglassing. Fiberglass and learned to fiberglass out of necessity. Riley knows the science behind it a lot better than I do. I've only ever used epoxy for simple fixes on the boat and everything. That's really good stuff.
Here's some of the things that you don't always get to see when people do glass work, especially on a crab boat. This little section right here was cut out for don't know why, and it had a very poor patch job on it. Looks like when someone was cutting it out though, they decided to cut this slot in the stringer. We've been trying to get the boat dry, and it's all pretty much dried out except for like spots like this. I'm like, why isn't it dry? So I've been sitting here scraping all this grease out of there, but it's not all coming out. So what I have here is a little syringe with some acetone, just squirting it in there, trying to get as much grease as possible out before we glass it. I mean, a little bit of glass with some grease, I guess, is better than no glass.
All right, so announcement, we are gonna go back to putting out a video a week. So that's 4 videos a month. We're gonna do our best to get you guys at least 1 video a month as an update video on how we're doing on the Desperado rebuild here. I understand people wanna see more videos on this. Progress is so slow, you know, like each one of these sides is 3 pieces of glass that we have to wet out, adhere to the stringer, and then do it 3 more times before it cures, and keep it warm in here when it's 10 degrees outside. We have been working really hard this winter between this and shooting other videos and all the other business development kind of stuff we have going on here. So Riley and I have been working on this boat. We've been pulling some late nights. Got a couple tricks up my sleeve though. Get a little stuff done a little faster. Knock, knock.
Oh, what the heck? That was a good time.
If you guys want to see this build from the day that I bought the boat to the day it got destroyed to the day that we started tearing it apart, I'll put all these videos up somewhere around here for you guys to watch if you want to watch the whole build up until current.